Welcome to Speed Data, quick conversations with cybersecurity leaders. I'm your host, Megan Garza. Today, I'm joined by Jon Densmore, the Chief Information Security Officer for First Mutual, a holding company for mutual banks in Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Virginia. Thanks for coming on Speed Data, Jon.
Glad to be here.
Jon leads the team responsible for information security and business continuity functions for all of First Mutual affiliate banks. He works closely with each institution's management team to ensure security standards and compliance requirements are met. Jon joined the First Mutual team in 2015 after 10 years at First Federal Lakewood, one of its affiliates. The MBA graduate and CISSP holder also serves on the board of directors for the Northeast Ohio Cyber Consortium, an organization dedicated to creating a safer and stronger cybersecurity community. Jon, what made you want to go into cybersecurity?
Megan, I kind of in a way backed into it. I started out in information technology, way back in 1999. I got in IT when a lot of other people did, and the ramp up to Y2K. So I was certainly started out in the help desk, great place to start, worked my way up to network engineer, then became an IT manager when I joined First Federal Lakewood back in 2005. In that role, I had basically jurisdiction over everything IT, including information security, which is very nascent field at that time. As the company grew, as we brought on more people, I just saw more opportunity to specialize in information security, seeing what a great need it was. They were able to bring on some engineers and other people who could manage those roles, but really didn't have anybody who could solely take control of making sure we had our information security program, stood up and running properly. So I, obviously worked towards getting my CISSP and developing that. And basically in this environment, I was able to create the information security program from scratch and basically get everything up and running from there.
And how has the threat landscape changed since you began your career?
Obviously it's changed, a lot with both the cloud computing. Was obviously a big impact on that. Just the availability of data everywhere, the loss of the perimeter in that, it's no longer you could build a moat around your data with firewalls and protect everything inside and out. You now have to think of your data as being everywhere. And so you have to have tools in place and policies in place to protect data no matter where it's at. But with that, there's really a lot more focus and reliance upon involving your user community, making them well-trained and aware, making them actual partners with you in the process. Back 10 years ago, you could kind of keep them at arm's length and you could build your protections around the data. But now that the data is with them wherever they are, you need to make sure that you're including them in the process and having them actively involved in assisting you in protecting the data.
Yeah, that's a great point. And what do you foresee as the biggest threat or risk to cybersecurity on the horizon?
Certainly, AI is what people are talking about at this point. Code development is probably a big area we're seeing that AI being risked in, just that it lowers the barriers of entry for people, and that people who didn't have coding skills on their own natively can now use your AI tools to do. So that's going to be certainly a risk concern. And again, like I alluded to already, just the prevalence of data everywhere. Since the pandemic, there's been the blurring of the lines between home life and work life. And so people are used to doing home things on their work computer, work things on their home computers, and vice versa. So just getting those controls in place, be it a BYOD environment, even if you're not BYOD, just people having access to data everywhere and establishing those controls. Kind of going back to just the prevalence of everything everywhere all the time and how do you protect that?
And with everything everywhere all the time, what is the best way to defend against a cyber attack?
A lot of that really is just establishing and knowing what normal is. When the sky is blue and the sun is shining, establish those baseline of knowing what your normal activity looks like, what your normal data flows look like, what, employees' sites are normally going through. Just establishing that baseline of what normal is. And that way you can identify abnormal no matter what it looks like. In the banking industry, we train tellers on how to recognize counterfeit money by having them handle thousands of, individual bills of legitimate money, of actual valid currency. And that way they instinctively know what good feels like. So anything different comes along, they recognize it right away. If all you ever focus on is the threats and what abnormal is, then that becomes normal. You have a hard time picking out the noise.
You need kind of that litmus test.
Right. You need to establish a baseline and just, work right from there. And, in defending against cybersecurity, even how the landscape changes with AI, in a sense, doesn't really do anything new. It's an enabler, enables things at scale, but it, to this point, isn't really creating anything we haven't seen before. So a lot of the same controls, a lot of the same mechanisms, be it, controls around authentication, controls around data backup, integrity management, those still hold true in the landscape. In the consumer world, in our own personal lives, there are probably about 5 simple things we can do. And if we do those things consistently, we'll never be a victim of fraud. Those have to do, obviously, unique password managers, 2-factor authentication. I could probably list about 5 simple things that, if you were to do them in your life, Megan, you could pretty much guarantee you'll never be a victim of fraud or identity theft. Same in the corporate world. There's some, basic blocking and tackling that if we consistently do these things, be it patching, data management, account management, strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, there's probably less than 10 things that, if they're done consistently across the board, greatly reduce the likelihood that you become a fraud, no matter how the threat landscape changes.
Yeah. So those 5, let's see, there's, like you said, multi-factor authentication,
Non-unique passwords.
not using the same password. Yeah.
Right. Now, having a good password manager, patching your systems, doing credit freezes, freezing your credit accounts,
That's
we're
a
not
great one.
use, getting in the habit of, recognizing phone calls, that if you get a phone call coming from your bank, as example, hanging up, calling them back at a good number, like the number on the back of your debit card, simple things like that you can just get accustomed to doing, and you pretty much knock out at least 99% of the fraud that's out there.
And what skill do you think makes a security professional great at what they do?
Empathy is a big one. Realizing that obviously your user community is certainly not the enemy. There's a saying that goes around, we hear it a lot, that, the user is the weakest link. I understand why that's said, but the user is the vital link. They need to be your extension of your information security program. They are your eyes and ears out there seeing things, and you need to have that relationship with them. If a employee clicking on an email causes your company to be compromised, that is a failure of your controls, not a failure of the employee. Because employees just need to do their job. And for a lot of them, opening attachments and clicking on a link is part of their job. So you need to have controls in place that enable them to do their job without blaming the employee. So, empathy, understanding, your role in the business. How does information security support the business? Because, you are there to support them and they're not there to support you. So how do you enable the business to work? And how do we become not the department of no, but the department of yes, but, or yes, and, or yes, if, we can do this, but consider this, or have you, if we put these controls in place, we can make this work and still keep the data secure.
And what advice do you have for other security leaders on the first steps to take when discovering a vulnerability or exploit attempt?
Again, I'm going to go back to what normal was to even determine if you have one. Certainly Varonis has a lot of tools to help with that. So advice on discovering, first, rule 1, don't panic.
Mm-hmm.
Basically before you get to that point, back when the sky is blue and the sun is shining, establish a process, establish an incident response plan, establish a playbook, so that when something happens, you have established and tested procedures. You tabletop these exercises. People know what they're doing, and you're not scrambling to figure out what we do now. It's better to have that planned out before that time comes. Just like, when we were kids in schools, we used to go through fire drills, so we knew what to do if there ever was a fire. Just like if you ever go on a cruise, the first thing you do day 1 is they take you through the lifeboat drill. So going through those drills ahead of time, when you're thinking clearly, when you're not in a panic mode, letting that become muscle memory is really the best way to prepare for those.
And if you weren't in cybersecurity, Jon, what would you be doing?
That's a good question. There are certainly days that being a Walmart greeter sounds nice. I'd certainly probably be doing something. I consider cybersecurity certainly a service industry, really. I mean, we work in technology, but at the end of the day, we're really here to help people.
Yeah.
I've done some adjunct professor. I've done some teaching at a collegiate level. So I've done that as a professor. I'd probably consider that again, just because, again, I enjoy working with students and sharing information with them and being able to help people grasp the concepts and be able to explain to them in terms that they understand.
And a little birdie told me that you play the guitar. Is that true?
Close. I play the bass guitar. I'm actually in a jazz quintet called Blue Fiasco. We actually have a gig tonight. So it's a fun group of people. So there's 5 of us, like I said, quintet, and we just play out pretty much, local wineries and, brew houses and other things there. We have a lot of fun doing it. So that's kind of my escape when I'm not thinking about this, just enjoying music and doing that.
Did you know that you have the same name as the drummer from The Doors?
Although he spells it wrong. The drummer for The Doors spells it wrong. And the funny thing is, people say, well, you should go on Google and see information is out there about you. Any information about me is buried under him. So
Yeah.
I can hardly find myself online because it all goes back to the drummer for The Doors.
Yeah. My husband is the same. His name is Chris Farley.
Oh, yeah.
So no one's going to try to steal his information. Thank you so much for chatting with me today and humoring my music trivia fun fact.
Not a problem.
I appreciated learning more about the financial sector of cybersecurity.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Jon.
Pleasure talking to you.